of the things that I love about doing this show is that I get to showcase local talent in our area because, so often I think local talent doesn't get the recognition it deserves, and we try our best. But being someone who's in the local scene, you want to know exactly who's out there doing the same thing as you do, and and making the thing happen for them. And that's exactly what we're doing this week. Another installment of that where we talk to a local creator, and it's another local author, somebody that I've been watching over the last few months and just seeing the excitement grow as this book was finally getting finished, and now it is officially published. And the book is out there. It is called Code Red: Reclaiming Wonderland. It's available now for purchase, and we have the author here. It is Taila Cantrell. Taila, thank you for joining me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I've been very excited ever since you asked.
Good. I'm glad. Well, let's get right into it. This book, how long did it take for you to get this book written? What was the process even?
So, this is a long story, so we'll just
Okay,
jump right in.
go into it.
I actually started Code Red on May 1st of 2017. I know the exact day I started it.
Whoa.
I had been writing a totally different book that I was probably about halfway through, and then I saw the second Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movie, and it just triggered the idea, and I sat down and I started writing it. I wrote the book beginning to end in 5 months. I finished it in September of 2017.
Wow.
Then then I started the editing process, and the editing process is definitely the most in my opinion, was most grueling for me because I did all of this myself. I didn't
Mhm.
go through a publisher, which generally with traditional publishing, you don't have to worry about too much editing because you're going to end up with an editor when you publish through a publisher. But I
Right.
didn't do that, so we had to do rigorous editing to make sure that it was going to go out and be good enough for the public for public consumption, which I feel like it is. So, um,
Hmm.
hopefully, anyway. I had a lot of life stuff happen after I finished the book and had started editing. And like my grandmother passed away, and I met my fiance, and it just life kind of happened for several years.
Kind
And
of a
in
mixture of emotions there too.
Yeah, it was, I've had some really highs and some really big
Yeah.
lows. And writing, definitely, when you're going through something like depression, it's really hard to write. It's hard to, find the time. And so, it took a long time. In 2022, I finished the biggest, what I believed at the time was going to be the biggest amount of edits. And I handed it off to various number of my friends and people I knew who loved to read and said, "Tell me what you think." And they all came back with really good notes and things that needed to improve. And so from about the last quarter of 2022 to about the last quarter of 2023, I spent a year editing. True, like words on the page editing. It went from being about 66,000 words to being over 90.
Whoa.
Yeah. And in I believe it was September or October of last year, I finished it.
Hmm.
I handed it off once again to two of the people who had read it previously and had them read the edits. I read through it, made just a few final touches, and in January I started book two and I announced book one's publishing date. And
Right.
we released April 5th of this year.
Absolutely. And see, that's crazy to me that because I mean a lot of people don't understand that, artistry and creativity is not absolute. It's not something that can just come on a whim. These things take time, and it takes time to grow. And like everyone that I've known in his, in recent history who have found success in their artistry took a lot of time to grow and advance in that. And so I mean, to hear that you started in 2017, it may be shocking, but it's really not that shocking because like you said, or like I said, this is a thing that has to continue on until it's fully complete. And so it
It
took that long to do it.
it did. It did. I decided last year that if I didn't do it now, I wasn't ever going to.
We're going to do it.
And so we
Absolutely.
did it. We hit the ground running, and I had a lot of really great help. I actually, my cover artist is also local. She lives about 10 minutes away from me. I live in Coreyton.
That's very handy.
Yeah, so we met on Facebook in a girl group in the
Hmm.
area, and we got to talking. And I was like, "Yeah, I really need a cover artist. You know, we're ready to hit the ground, but I don't have cover." So,
Right.
it really worked out. Kind of like everything lined up and was wonderful. And yeah.
That's the way it rolls. So now when you wrote the book, like where did the ideas come from? Like what gave you this idea?
Well, I I'm so bad about answering this question because the initial thought, my novel, I guess I should tell everybody what it is about. It
Hmm.
is obviously an Alice in Wonderland retelling. It is dystopian, so it's set, people think Hunger Games, which is
Hmm.
not necessarily a bad comparison in the time period it kind of takes it time in. So it's kind of post America post the world's downfall. And so in Code Red, there is one city, is the last city standing on Earth. And you find out why it's the last city standing as you read the book. But and more on that in book two.
Ah,
And,
little
uh,
teaser for everybody
little
there.
things. Um, so I didn't originally plan for it to be a dystopian. I didn't realize when I sat down to write it that that's what it was going to be. The only question I had, because on top of being a dystopian and a retelling, it's also like a why choose polyam romance. And the question that I asked myself when I started writing it, when I saw the Tim Burton second movie, I thought, what would an Alice in Wonderland polyam type relationship look like, and how would those characters interact, and what would they look like? And it kind of started there. And I think when I started it, I would have never guessed that it would turn it into nothing at all what you would expect when you ask yourself that question. And yeah. So um kind of the rest of it happened. The characters kind of just told me what the world was like and what was going on. And we uh I changed my writing style part of the way through the editing and writing of this book. I had originally been a writer who planned everything. I
Mhm.
had these deep outlines. And what I found as I kind of learned my writing process and I started writing is I write best and I write the best stories when I'm not really thinking about it. So now I have a bullet point list of like, I know it's going to begin like this, I know it's going to end like this, and I know these things are going to happen, and I just let the characters tell their story. And it was a big difference.
That is, if that's not the truth, I don't, because I on this show we write sketches and stuff, and we just write whatever comes to mind, and I found this has been one of the hardest seasons to write recently because I feel like I've had to put more time into it and thinking, and I keep it's like you said, I keep getting mad at myself because like the best stuff and the easiest stuff to write is the stuff that just comes to your mind when you're not thinking about it, and you just write it down and then you're done. And so I know exactly that feeling, and not in terms of author, because I mean that you went above and beyond. I'm talking about stupid little sketches that we make on this show, but the writing process is so similar. It's you have to let the words pour out of you, because if you think about them, you're not going to do it correctly.
My number one piece of writing advice when I've talked to other like aspiring writers is don't ever look back at what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We never I don't I am currently 31,000 words into book two, um, which I wish I felt like was enough, but I want to have it done by summer.
Sure.
So hopefully we have a release date about this time next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't planned much of this book at all. It has taken already so many turns that I would not have expected, but I haven't looked back at any of them because you get wrapped in your perfectionism and wanting to really be perfect and really draw in the audience, and you don't think as a writer, you begin to think as a reader or
Mm-hmm.
as a consumer of your own work. And that is necessary, but it also, when you're in the middle of writing, it is your greatest downfall, because when you start thinking as a consumer, you're no longer in your creative headspace.
one of the things I learned in writing, both when I was in school and as I've been, like, writing these, things that for the show, is that you need to write what you would like to see, write what you would like to hear,
Yes.
because if you're writing down what entertains you, people will grasp onto that. They'll glom onto it and be like, that is interesting. Let's do it. So that is the greatest piece of advice: is write what you know, write what you want, write what you would want to listen to, what you would want to read, what you would want to see, and the rest will just come naturally.
Very much so. I don't um I people don't expect um when they sit down to write it to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I've come across is, oh, it can't be that hard. Everybody wants to write a book, but it actually is. It can be really difficult because you're not ultimately, if you do want to publish, you're not just publishing for yourself. Your goal ultimately is to have a readership, and I believe fully in authenticity. So I write 100% like not for the reader. I write for the story and the story's sake. And sometimes, you end the book on a cliffhanger and people threaten to murder you.
Right.
Oh,
It's a good thing.
it's a good
You're
thing.
gonna get more. I mean, it's a good thing. And more onto that point, because now the first book is out. I want to know what that feels like. What does that feel like to have this book to go? Because I went to Amazon and I was just like, I was like starstruck, because it's like, I know this person. I see them. I know this person who wrote this book, and here it is on the Amazon books with everybody else. How does it feel to go to Amazon, go to these places and see your work there for people to purchase?
Unreal. I
Yeah.
completely. I haven't. The book's been out for just over a week now, and it's still not real to me. It's not real
Mhm.
to me that people are reading it, that I'm getting reviews on it. It is just completely. I I just started a new job. And I was sitting in my training class a couple of weeks ago, and I had sent out advanced reader copies, and I was looking at Goodreads, and I had gotten my first 3 reviews, and I gasped aloud in the middle of class, and I can't say I almost cried. I
Right.
definitely did, but I won't. I won't admit it. And it's still extremely unreal, and the fact that like earlier this week I was on an author live in a Facebook group that I'm in, and I was talking to 2 other indie authors. One of them had been reading the book, and her, first of all, glowing review, and just her encouragement. She was like, you're a published author now, and I still can't believe it.
Right.
I don't think it'll set in until I've done it
Hmm.
probably 50 more times. But it's been a great experience so far, and I really look for. I've got to make really good connections with people too. There's a community out there that I am so excited to finally get to be a part of. Yeah, I think it's been. I won't. I can't believe I'm a published author. If people have been reminding me of that for a week, and it's still crazy. I
Still
just
hasn't quite set in yet that
has not quite
that's
set
a
in.
real thing that's happened here. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
done it.
You've done it. You've done the thing. And for this story that you've started with, that just came out a week ago, you said the sequel's coming up. How many do you see this being like a Star Wars, like a continuing story, or like Alice in Wonderland, or do you just like, you just kind of going by the seat of your pants, let's see what happens next?
So I know that there's going to be 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently writing book 2. I already know pieces of what book 3 is going to look like. I do think after book 3, I will take a break from this world. I actually have 18 other kind of works in prog. Yeah.
Whoa. Whoa.
Um, it's pretty massive. I have a OneNote for the record.
Mhm.
OneNote is your best friend when you're.
Yes, it is for all
I
this
love
stuff.
OneNote. I
Hmm.
am I am a OneNote girly. And I have, other than the Reclaiming Wonderland series, I have about 18 other projects. Most of them are series because I'm
Right.
long-winded. Um,
That
uh,
nothing wrong with that at all.
no, no. So I've had, just a really great experience. And I know that there might be, I think I've been kind of toying with the idea of, after the main 3 books, getting um a chronicles together of some anthologies, so you get to see some side character stories and some of the stuff that I'm not going to have time to touch on in the regular story. Um, Sorry, my computer screen's
It's
acting up.
fine.
But I yeah, I can't wait. I do know it's going to be 3 books. I don't expect we'll get anything, probably won't get anything else Reclaiming Wonderland after that for a year or two, because I really do have some other projects I'm really excited to move on to.
Nice.
But the goal is to have the next 2 books out over the next 2 years. And maybe I might start working on some other projects to release in the meantime.
Very nice. Well, since we're on the subject, can you give us a little bit like what's some of the other projects? Just like little probes here and
Sure,
there.
sure.
What's coming up?
So, oh gosh, which ones do I want to talk about? Because I have so many. I think I'll talk about the first one I ever started writing. So I started writing my first novel at 14. It was 2012.
Mhm.
Um, and um, and it is probably a 7-book series. It's werewolves, it's royalty, it's all the supernatural creatures that you can imagine. It's got Norse mythology. And that series is so built out, I probably won't even, it's gonna be my Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
It probably has a little while before it comes, but the one I'm currently really thinking about moving on to is a series. It would be a series. I know right now there would be 4 books, but each book, it all would take place in a small Appalachian town, because I grew up in a small Appalachian town.
Right, right.
And we're gonna be dealing with not only small town antics, but also, I'm a supernatural girly, so there might be
Mhm.
some cat shifters and some grim reapers involved. But
Good
I
stuff.
definitely, heavy fantasy is my bread and butter.
Right.
I also have a Greek mythology story that I really would like to read, or to write. Gosh, I'd like to read it. That would be great.
That'd be
Uh,
great too. Yes. First you got
produce
to
it.
write it, then read it.
Yeah, then I get to read it.
Mhm.
That will probably be, those are probably the next 3 that I'm going to really focus on.
Nice. Wonderful. Wonderful. So you're doing this now. And I think overall, I think I probably know the answer to this question, but is this one, if I can get the words out, do you want this to be your career? Is this where you want to be
That's
in
the
the
dream.
next 10
I
years?
think, of
Mhm.
course, I think any indie author would tell you, if I could make a living off of this and do just this, I would love to. I think if I could, I would certainly get more than 1 book out a year.
Mhm. Right.
So yeah, I think this is definitely, you know, my greatest dream is to just be
Hmm.
an author, and travel the world and write and live my life.
And do the thing. Do the
Do the
thing.
thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from this point forward, I mean, you're working on the next book. You're there's going to be 2 more probably in this series. Where do we go from there? I mean, you've already given us a little bit of what's going on, what's coming up next, but like over the course of the next few years, like how many books do we see coming out? What's next for you?
So I won't reveal the title. Well, no, you know what? I will. I'll reveal the
Okay.
title
All
of book
right.
2. You get the
Exclusive. Exclusive right here.
exclusive title of book 2. I was not planning to release it until next week, but book 2 is called Blue Dreams. So it's Reclaiming Wonderland number 2.
Beautiful.
Um, we are working on the cover currently.
Hmm.
Um, and I intend for it to come out in the first quarter of 2025. So we're hoping, by April, maybe May, we'll have it
Right.
out. And my intention is, once I finish book 2 and send it to beta readers, that I will start book 3. So
Hmm.
my hope is that if I'm very lucky and I'm very on task, we will get 2 books next year,
Wow.
one in the very first quarter, one in the end. At worst, again, the first quarter of 2026, we should see book 3, which I won't reveal a title for because I do have one in mind, but I'm still on the fence about it.
Right. Right. Well, that's amazing. I mean, again, you're living the dream, you're doing the thing. And I don't know if I can't remember if I asked this question, but I'm going to ask it again. What inspired you to be an author? What made you want to do this?
Oh my gosh. I am a huge reader. I love
Hmm.
books. My grandmother and my dad are big readers. My dad's also, a writer. Maybe I can convince him to publish one day.
Hey,
But
there you go.
um uh they they cultivated such a love of stories in me. I mean, I was devouring books way
Hmm.
above my reading level. And I loved them. Of course, you get the popular ones. Who doesn't love, Percy Jackson and the Hunger
Oh
Games?
God, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, just the best stuff ever. I can't say I didn't have a little Twilight phase,
Oh, everybody did. I mean, that was the
everybody
thing.
did.
Come on.
And and even stuff that's more unheard of. But from a young age, I love to read, and I had always, had my own stories in my head, and I hit high school, and I was ready to sit down and write, and I had a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Any of my book ideas come from dreams I've
Right.
had. And I had a dream, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I decided to write it, and that is hopefully a series that will get released one day, because I think it would be very popular. I think people would really like it. But yeah, and then I just didn't ever stop writing. I've been writing ever since, which is how you end
Just
up with
kept going. Just kept going. Yeah. And that's the way to do it. And now look at you now. You are a published author, book 2 in the works. You've got a whole another group of series coming out in the future. Just like we discussed how you felt about seeing that published novel online.
Oh my gosh.
How do you feel just, right? And just how do you feel just overall knowing that this is happening now?
I think that I have to admit, in the beginning, when it first started to become real, terrified,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so scary to share something you love. Because I love the story, I love the characters, I love. This is a piece of me that I've put out into the world, which I think anytime you put art out, that's very much how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I was completely terrified. I was certain I was going to wake up from a dream at some point. And then, as we got closer and closer, I was just extremely excited.
Right.
I was so excited that I've finally done it, that all the time I have a blog, and
Mm-hmm.
if you go back, you can see the beginning of my talking about writing and talking about the series. And I think I've gone back and looked at those posts, and like sitting here today, being a published author, having my book out there, having people reading it, is just, it's it's joy. I would say it's
Mm-hmm.
euphoria almost. Even like, I don't think anybody who puts their art in the world doesn't have some ability to be critiqued. Like, you have to be prepared for the critiques. But even in the things that have been people who said, "Oh, I don't like the writing style," honestly, I love that, because
Right.
because any good book isn't for every person, and I think that makes it real. These aren't just people who love me leaving reviews, who are my
Mm-hmm.
friends. These are people who are just readers, who are just getting to enjoy the story, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It really is. It really is. And now here you are doing the thing. But of course, Code Red is out on Amazon now. You can get it, and then the
It's
next
also on Barnes and Noble
Barnes
and
and Noble.
Kobo, which is
Nice.
yeah. So it is. We hope one day Apple Books, but Apple is very complicated to upload your book to.
Tell me about it. It took forever to get this show on Apple Podcasts. I was like, good Lord. Why Apple? Why are you just such a fortress? We're trying to give you content. Please help us.
Everybody.
Please help us. Lord have mercy. But no, so you heard it there. You can get this amazing book at these locations, and book 2 will be coming out hopefully at the beginning of the year. She's still working on it. We'll see what happens next. Oh, Taylor.
My social medias for updates.
That's right. And yes, give a shout out. What social media can they follow you on?
Oh, they can follow me on Facebook. You can look up my first and last name, Cantrell Author. I have a page and a group you can follow. I have Instagram, T Cantrell Author. I think I have Twitter. It's probably, might be Taylor Talks. I have TikTok too, which I
of course
on TikTok a lot because I'm social media illiterate.
Right. It's the same. That's why I went to YouTube and podcasts. I'm like, I can't do this TikTok stuff. I can't
I've considered a podcast, but I think I would just get canceled.
Listen, if we've not gotten canceled, you're not getting canceled. You're fine. I mean, we don't say anything offensive, but it's like, I know people listen to the show and it's like, what are they about? Why are they doing this? It's episodes like this that ground us and make people want to, oh, they're legit. They do legitimate things. They talk to people. Oh, good. I'll listen to that. So that's, that's
the best part of being creative. You get to be silly sometimes.
Exactly. So no, if you can, like I said, look, you're the proof. If you dream it, you can do it, make it happen. And that's exactly what this is about. Taila Cantrell, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. You have been fantastic, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you. It has been my pleasure.
You are most welcome. We've been talking to Taila Cantrell on the Smoking Hot Toddcast.